am fantasy and paranormal romance author Leslye Penelope, and welcome to My Imaginary Friends, a look behind the scenes of an author mapping the worlds in my head and making them a reality. Hello, friends. Today is Sunday, June 9th, 2024, and this is episode 242 of My Imaginary Friends. I'm Leslye. I am recording live this Sunday morning, once again, because I do not have time to edit. And I enjoyed the live podcast last time. Let me know how you think, or let me know what you think. It is just a little bit easier for me because of this week's best thing. So this week's best thing is the reason why I am tired, and it's Sunday and I don't think I'll have time to edit today because I still have a bunch of things to do. Number one, Daughter of the Merciful Deep came out this Tuesday. So I had my book release on Tuesday, and then on the same night, I had the release launch party at Sankofa Books, or not a party, launch event with Dolan Perkins Valdez. So that was part one of the launch. And then this past weekend was the Imaginarium Book Festival, which was amazing as always. It's my third year at this festival. And coming off of a 2-day, basically an author signing event, I had a table, sold books, signed books, had panels, met lots of readers. It just leaves me very exhausted, but in a good way. Like I do have a lot of energy, even though I am drained. I woke up at 6 a.m. for some reason. My body only thought I needed 5 hours of sleep, so that's unfortunate. But those were this week's best things, and I'm so excited about them. As a reminder, you can sign up for the Footnotes newsletter, which includes the show notes for each episode, as well as inspiration, strategies, and ideas to help you grow as a writer and a creative. That is at myimaginaryfriends.net/footnotes. When you sign up, you can choose to become an imaginary best friend for a few dollars a month and get access to the premium posts, long-form craft essays, as well as discounts on my coaching and courses. So, launch week is interesting. It's a little bit anticlimactic. And, in doing the author success series and thinking about what success means and how it feels to set a goal and then reach a goal and then, set another goal, maybe a higher goal, but keep that sense of gratitude for what you have achieved and keep that sense of wonder if possible. So people ask me a lot how many books I have out, and well, let's count them. There's 4 Earthsinger Chronicles, there's 3 novellas, then there were 2 angel books, then there was Monsters, then there was the 3 Savage City Bliss Wars books, then there's Daughter of the Merciful Deep, and then if you count Cupid Guild, which I don't count the short stories, but there is a novella in with the Cupid Guild, so that's 15 novels and novellas that I have published, both traditionally and independently. And so Daughter of the Merciful Deep is my 6th traditionally published book. And after 6 times, I don't want to get jaded, and I'm very grateful, and the reception has been amazing. And even at the festival, I think the Barnes & Noble there's a bookstore at these book festivals. So I'm selling my self-published books and my older traditionally published books. And then since this new book just came out, I would send people to the bookstore to buy it. So it counts for my royalties and all of that. And I think they only had 2 copies left at the end of the day. And they had 2 big stacks when I went to the bookstore to see what books they had of mine. So, I can pitch this book really well, and I think the reception to it has been good. But yeah, it's my 6th traditionally published book. And so I guess my journey or my struggle is to not feel jaded. And I don't think I'm feel jaded. That's not the right word. It was kind of anticlimactic. Anything like this is you build up and you build up and you build up. And then it's here in that day. And it's like, yes, yay, celebrate. But also I'm working on 2 to 3 more projects, and it just, I don't know. It's weird. It's a weird feeling. And I was kind of in an emotional dip, and it's hard. This is a wonderful time, this celebratory day, but my energy was kind of low on Tuesday. But anyway, the festival was good to sort of bring it back up, even though it drained my introvert battery. It was good overall, and I love meeting readers. And I don't think I took any pictures, but people took pictures of me that I'm reposting. I'm very bad at taking pictures at these things. And I see other authors who have their little slideshows and their videos that they post afterwards with all the things that they did. And I'm like, I should do that. But I never do because I'm focused. I think it takes so much for me to focus on the event, focus on being kind of on and being there for the readers and the social interactions, which are a little bit more difficult for me as an introvert and just as a awkward person. So then to also add on top of that, oh, let me take a lot of pictures and some videos and have the presence of mind to do that. Yeah, I mean, it's fine. I don't do it. I enjoy other people's. I appreciate other people's doing other people's videos and pictures and slideshows and things like that. But I had to give myself some grace about not being able to do all the things. So my writing update is working on this new project. I will tell you, I'll give it a code name. So the code name officially is Black Witch University or Blitch University. That's all you're getting right now because we're still in the early days. But I've got the world set up, and now this past week or two has been about character work, about developing characters and creating my personalities for my main character. I have a name for her. I have basic backstory, although it's still in flux. I did actually talk to my agent, Arlie, about it a bit, and he gave me some interesting notes just on the initial concept and making sure to differentiate it from the other things I'm working on, because there were overlaps that I didn't even see. I didn't notice were overlaps. And they're far enough away. The stories are very different. So the Book of Secrets, which is currently with my editor, I'm pitching that as a proposal, and this new book. So creating characters for this new idea from scratch, because I didn't come into it with any characters. I had this sort of setting, this location, and that was basically it. So how do I go about creating a personality for a main character? I generally start with a couple different ways. I often start with an Enneagram. So Enneagram is the personality test. I have this little Enneagram worksheet. I printed out. It's got all of the 9 personality types on there, and I look and say, do any of these fit? Do any of these feel right? Not quite. So my friend Inez recommended a book to me that I thought was on my desk. Oh, it is. It's Heroes and Heroines, The Complete Writer's Guide to Heroes and Heroines, 16 Master Archetypes by Tammy Cowden, Carol Lefevre, and Sue Vaders. And so the times when the 9 Enneagrams aren't enough, I go to Heroes and Heroines and I look at the archetypes. And then sometimes I'm combining things. It's kind of an Enneagram 5, but maybe it's a waif archetype or whatever. And so for this one, I don't often go to that book, or I don't always go to it, but recently I have been. So yeah, I have this character. I don't know who she is yet, my main character for this new idea, and I'm trying to build her. So thinking about her backstory, how does she respond to her past, knowing her goals and motivations. That's one of the things that I have pretty clear, pretty solid on that. And then trying to decide on her exact backstory. And then going back to the Enneagrams, and then the archetypes. So for this archetype, or for this pairing of the romance, the love interest character for my main character, I'm leaning towards Grumpy Sunshine. I do love a Grumpy Sunshine. And so in terms of if you're familiar with this book and the 16 archetypes, thinking about maybe my female main character as being the spunky kid and the professor for my male main character. Those are my first passes. And so this book is really interesting because it gives you the male archetypes, the female archetypes, and then a little paragraph on them getting together. Like, how do they mesh? How do they clash? You can do that with Enneagrams too. I found a website, and I will link it in the show notes, about when 2 different Enneagram types, how they get together. And so it's good for when you're writing love stories or romance plot lines in books. So that's what it is right now. Obviously, these things change a lot over time. And then I'm thinking about her personality, like what will make things harder? What makes things harder for her? Like knowing her goal, backtracking the character's personality from the plot and from the goal, which is interesting. You could be a plot first writer or a character first writer, or both for different projects. I don't think I'm one consistently. I do think I'm a little bit more plot first, but sometimes the character comes first, and then I'm more character first as a writer. So this story is definitely, it's world first, which I've talked about in my last solo episode. but world led into both plot and character, but the character is coming through the least strong. And so I was just sitting down. I was like, the next step is really to figure out who she is and what her personality is and what I want her to be. So the way I think about it is what fits the story, but also what haven't I done? What kind of personalities haven't I written? Because I'm always trying to do something a little bit different. And so I do a lot of, and I mentioned this in a previous episode. I'm an Enneagram Type 5, which is the investigator. And my first two books, they were Enneagram Type 5s. Then I was purposefully trying to do different personality types. In The Monsters We Defy, Claire is a Type 8, a Challenger. I'd never written a Challenger main character before. I can't remember what Jane is in the new book. I would have to look that up. She might be like the helper, like a 2, I think is the helper, or is it a 4? Anyway, I don't know. I haven't picked it yet. This is just the thought process. Grumpy Sunshine, I think leaning towards maybe a slightly more extroverted character. But I do like it. This is a fish out of water tale. And so thinking about, okay, what is the story? What are her goals? What kind of personality would she need to have to achieve those goals? But also the character arc, the growth arc. So how is she going to change over the course of the novel? Where does she start and where does she end? And then I was thinking, what if she's a flat arc? So we have character arcs. There's a book I often recommend, Creating Character Arcs by K.M. Weiland. And I generally do a positive change arc. A character starts out with a wound or something wrong, and over the course of the novel, they get what they need to get better, to heal in some way or get stronger in some way. There's also the negative arc, where it's like a villain origin story. And then there's the flat arc. And I feel like I've done this before, where I thought I was writing a flat arc and it ended up changing. So it could change. I've been doing this for 3 weeks or 4 weeks. But with a flat arc, you have the character doesn't change that much. They're basically the same, but they exert change on the world around them. So if she already starts out pretty cool, like pretty strong, good values, not too wounded, but she's put into a situation where she's constantly being tested, and she has to exert her like health and strength and goodness maybe into that world and change it. That's not really resonating with me. Like, I don't think she's good, but I think that might have a flat arc. She might be like on top of things where she can handle all the things that are sent her way. I know I want a big betrayal in this book that she suffers. Like, she thinks one thing, things are one way, and she discovers it's very different than what she's been led to believe her entire life. But she ultimately stays the same and changes other people. I think that's a really interesting thing, and I really haven't done a flat arc like that before. And I don't know if I can pull it off. It's a little bit, flat arc characters are often like the detectives, like your James Bond or your Sherlock Holmes. Although in more recent Sherlock Holmes, there has been more change arcs. I'm thinking of the Benedict Cumberbatch one. Actually, does he change? I haven't watched that in a long time. But yeah, then I'm going back to theme for the character. So trying to make decisions about who she is, what her personality is, and always coming back to, okay, why am I telling the story? What do I care about this story? What do I think the potential is? What am I trying to say? And I went back to my vision statement and updated that. So I always do a vision statement these days when I start a book, and that helps guide me because it's so many decisions. And what, like, literally, what personalities does this character have? Is she really shy and like an outcast, or does she come in, is she like the cheerleader and she's just in this new environment where she has to learn the rules? But if she's more like a sunshine cheerleader type character, then she's indefatigable. Like, everything comes at her, nothing beats her down until that one thing that almost does, and then she rises out of it. So she hasn't really changed. She's kept her spirit the entire time. I think I like that. I'm going to try to do that. So that is the writing update. That's what I've been working on. And I did feel, while I was going through this process, like I work on it 2 or 3 days out of the week, and then I have to take some time off and fill the well, input, get more inspiration, because I can't just power through this story. And I don't think I can power through any of them. So that's what's happening. I'm working on it. I don't have any kind of deadline. I just have this period of time when I'm not working on anything else, that I can generate the ideas, hopefully get this character together, get her personality together, and then head back into the plot, and then kind of go back and forth between them. How the character influences the plot, who influences the character, and braid and weave the story together and come up with an outline, and then maybe in a month or two start writing. Maybe not 2 months, maybe 1 month. But I'm not going to put a timeline on it because there's no specific deadline. Yeah, that's the writing update. I'm trying to think if there's something else I wanted to talk about. Might be a short episode because I can't remember, and I didn't have anything else in my notes. But I am moving forward with that. Oh, yes, there is. There's another thing I want to do. So 2025 is my 10-year anniversary of publishing, and I want to do something cool that, and it's hard because I like to tell what I'm doing on the podcast, but I also have the need to have a secret project. But I hate being mysterious and like teasing things because there's some things I can't talk about because they're contracted, but this would be an indie thing. So I have to see how I feel about that. I kind of want it to be a surprise though, you know? So anyway, there might be a secret project, but at the same time, it's like, when am I going to have the time and energy to do all of these things? I don't know. So stay tuned for 2025 secret project, potentially, if I have time. And maybe I should be working on that now while I have this period of time while I'm not under contract. I can explore whatever I want. This story that I'm working on, the Black Witch University, would be a traditional project. And yeah, should I work on indie stuff right now while I've already have a proposal out in the world? There's a lot of strategy that goes on, like thinking about your career, especially being hybrid, when you get to choose some things and you're not in control of, when an offer comes in or when a contract comes in. You're hoping for that, and then when that happens and when you're contractually obligated to do something, that takes precedence, and I have to prioritize that. So in this period before that happens, but the problem is I start something in this period and then the contract happens and I have to let it go midstream, which is frustrating. So that's a little bit of what I'm thinking about. So I've got the project that's out. I've got this project. I still want to get back to that NaNoWriMo, which is nothing to do with the secret project, and then the potential secret project for my 10-year anniversary of publishing. It's too much. It sounds like too much. It's ridiculous. But that is where we are. That's where my energy is right now. I just have to follow the energy and hope for the best, and try to keep being creative. I think that's it for me for this week. Next week, we will have an interview, part of my Imagining Success interview series. I've got Tananarive Due. I was able to speak with her. She was wonderful. She's one of my influences. And I probably do this in the intro, but when I went to ReaderCon in 2019, she was one of the guests of honor. And so I was on a panel that was like devoted to like honoring her, and she was in the front row. It was like a weird experience, but wonderful. Like I reread a bunch of her books in preparation for that panel. And then we've been on other virtual panels together since then. And I got to talk to her about her career and her ideas about success, which I will share with you next week. So I hope that you have a wonderful week. For episode show notes and to subscribe to the Footnotes newsletter, and ideally get the show notes in your inbox, go to myimaginaryfriends.net. You can subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and watch the video episodes on YouTube. Email me at podcast@lpenelope.com. And I would really appreciate a rating or review to help support the show. My Imaginary Friends is part of the Frolic Podcast Network. For more fantastic podcasts, go to frolic.media/podcasts. Have a wonderful rest of your weekend.